Well, good morning, West Ham fans. Happy bin day in the Budden household. Oh, it's a crazy day when it's bin day. But in terms of West Ham, is something fishy going on? Well, a very good Wednesday to you, one and all. Hope everyone is safe and well. Go and check out Alex. Did a TikTok live last night, and we'll have our old school hammers tonight. Maybe another bonus live show tonight. We'll wait and see. But I want to talk about. I mean, over the last sort of 72 hours, there's been a lot of really, what's the word? Really not controversial, but really random news surrounding particularly Julian Lopetegui and his tenure at West Ham. And it, there's a couple of things. It feels a lot like Groundhog Day. So you may recall during the end of Moyes' tenure, there were rumours of West Ham looking at his replacement. While he was still at the club, there was the high profile media hysteria around Ruben Amorim flying into London. And it got to the point where actually Moyes banned Tim from the training ground. If you remember that, I was talking about that yesterday actually with Alex, because he was doing his live shows about the soap opera West Ham. It does seem a bit like the soap opera. And the media very much were used as a vehicle to leak the senior West Ham senior management, senior sources, sort of dissatisfaction with Moyes' tenure, particularly towards the end. Now, 6 months later, it seems that history is repeating itself. And this sort of stems from the pretty random tweet out of nowhere, really, from Sky Sport Germany's Florian Peltenberg, who we know is a confidant of Tim Steidten, and broke many pieces of information that have turned out to be true in terms of transfers and things like that. And a relatively sort of obscure tweet, really, out of nowhere, saying that West Ham were interested in the former Borussia Dortmund and former West Ham assistant coach Edin Terzic as a potential replacement for Julien Lopetegui, and indeed, what was something, some people said it was quite sort of out of left field, but actually, it's funny enough. I was looking for some old thumbnails yesterday, and trying to find like one design that I remember I did, and the article, the title was "Is Lopetegui third choice?" And I had like a list, and it was Amorim with a big cross, and then Terzic with a big cross out of it, and then what's his face? Then Lopetegui. Interesting enough, it was about 3 or 4 weeks after Julien had taken up the post, was officially announced as West Ham's new head coach, that Edin Terzic and Borussia Dortmund parted ways. So, some may say if we waited 4 weeks, we would have got him anyway. But the timing of it is very strange. And then I was listening to Talksport's Alex Crook, and he was saying some really interesting stuff around the playing staff, and the playing staff are not really necessarily convinced, that was his words, by what Lopetegui has done so far with the Spanish head coach, yet to get the best out of his team. He's quoted in saying, "I'm told the players aren't necessarily convinced by him. There's been 1 or 2 issues. There was the incident with him and Mohamed Kudus at Brentford, the bust up at half time, which was played down a bit by my sources at West Ham. Obviously, Kudus got a bit hot headed and got sent off again. But I think there are some question marks around him. There were some members of the hierarchy that weren't entirely sure about the appointment in the first place. So the more results that go against them, the concerns are going to get louder and louder." So you've got that and the Peltenberg. It does seem like history is repeating itself. I don't think it's going to benefit anyone, really. because it's like, is this our MO now? We give, we basically have put all these leaks out and things like that, and sort of pile the pressure up. We know Julien has walked out on a club before with Wolves, didn't he? Because they promised him transfer funds which weren't available, and I don't. I'm not. I'm purely speculating, but it seems this snowball effect, and it would do obviously because we've just been beaten by you know one of our rivals 4-1. We haven't had a great start to the season. We've now got our star forward out for at least 3 games, probably more likely 6 to be honest, based on the fact the FA officially charged him yesterday. He has until tomorrow to make an appeal. And then we find out the full extent of that. But the fact is, the wording of that statement did say violent conduct. Violent conduct brings with it an additional 3-match ban, as per the rules. So I would be expecting some more games that he will not be available for. Maximum of 6, I'd say, including obviously the 3 plus the 3. But it is. I just find it a little bit strange. We're also led to believe there's been sources. Sean Wheaton particularly, from his senior source, has been saying that Julien he's got the backing of the board. That he's got time. They appreciate the sort of the turnover of players, and he has, and potentially a date of around January time if things aren't looking well. Julien himself has said, "Judge me in May," in terms of where we are as a club. Then, and it just seems that something fishy is going on, and it does remind me of the Moyes tenure towards the end. There was all these leaked stories, and it was just. It seemed that really piling on the pressure on David at the end. And it seems it's happening already with Julien, and he's only been in the job for 6 months. Not even that, really. He's only been in the job for 4 months, really, officially. So I just want to give him a fair crack of the whip to start with and see what happens. You know what I mean? He hasn't blazed himself in glory. We know that. Me and Anton were doing our members only podcast on Monday, and one of the things we were saying was it was, the squad surgery needed to happen, and it needed to almost like rip off the band-aid, because the squad was old, it was disjointed. I mean, some positions are better now, but some aren't, obviously. And indeed, talking about the forward position, Nicholas Fulcrew, last night there was an article out in Claret and Hugh, which was basically alluding to the fact that Lopetegui wants a replacement for Nicholas Fulcrew. He's not impressed, and he wants someone to come in as a replacement for him. And again, that comes from Alex Crook, who Talksport, who's saying Lopetegui is unhappy with Fulcrew's injury record, that he's demanding the club sign another striker as well. So it does seem, and to me, this is the first one. He's taken a back seat really to transfers. Under this new setup, Tim Steindl is the guy signing the players for Julien to train. That's how this sort of modern director of football, first team coach setup works. And this is the first time, if this is led to be believed, and again, it's from Talksport's Alex Crook, and we know Talksport do tend to have a back line to potentially West Ham owner, one of the owners. So this is the first time he's sort of, is he showing, are they alluding to the fact that he's not happy now? It does seem that things are piling up on him really quickly, and I feel sorry for him, really. I do at the moment, because it's a massive rebuild job. It's a massive, and we talk about the transition, and we talk about that, and yet granted, some other clubs have got new managers in and they've hit the ground running. I would argue that they haven't had the squad rebuild that we had to do. we had to get rid of the likes of Zuma. You had to get rid of the likes of Aged, and we had too many. We still got one of the oldest squads in the Premier League, and that's going to take time. But then when you've got almost a 40-year-old goalkeeper as your number two, who could potentially be in goal for Saturday or Sunday, if you're led to be believed as well, that he potentially looks like dropping Areola after his poor performance against Spurs, and potentially even Paqueta for his poor performance against Spurs. So it seems to be bubbling up to some sort of crescendo. And I hope it's a successful one. I hope it doesn't blow up in our faces and we're left to, cry over spilt milk again. But what do you think? I mean, I love a conspiracy theory. I love a conspiracy theory. But am I just adding it all together and coming up with a sum that I want to come up with, or do you think there is some smoke where the fire is? Because for me, there's too much noise coming out, and the one yesterday from Florian Peltenberg really did put the cat amongst the pigeons for me. I wouldn't even say that Edin's particularly is a if you listen to a lot of Borussia Dortmund fans, they weren't particularly happy with the style of football as well. Particularly the style of football that Dortmund are usually used to, and it has been accused that his tenure was longer because of the fact that they were going so far in Europe. Their league form was very much a carbon copy of Davy Moyes in that, in his tenure, where the league form would sort of go by the wayside because we were doing so well in Europe. Same true with Edin and his time at Borussia Dortmund. But yeah, I just can't put a finger on it, but I just think there's something a bit fishy going on, and it does sound a bit like Groundhog Day again. Anyway, Anton will be back with the Daily and Hammers headlines later on. We'll have Old School Hammers as well, and I said we may well have another live show in between that, just confirming whether we can. My guest is available or not, but let me know later on. But until that time, the only way you can make sure you don't miss any content is if you like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're a channel member, thank you very much for your continued patronage. And don't forget to check out the podcast we put up. It was a live one on Monday, but you can obviously watch it on catch up, where we look at almost like Room 101. What do we hate about football? And I wasn't this. I was more frivolous than Anton. But yeah, apart from that, take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble, keep the faith, and come on, you bloody irons! Ah!